Hey, good morning. How are you doing, girl? Thank you for joining me this morning. So today is the 29th of November. Holy cow, it's already the end of November. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing good. Things are so good in my life right now. I'm just ecstatic. So much good stuff. So many good things. Where do I begin? So, it's the end of November, and I'm already studying for my final exam in my machining course at Allen Hancock College. And in fact, I've got my first final next Monday. Can you believe it? So, I'm studying. I'm going to be studying hard. Today's Thursday. So, I'll be studying hard tonight, Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, and then as much as I can Monday, and then I'll have my exam on Monday night. So, wow. I already signed up for my class next semester, which is the spring semester of 2019. I'm taking a welding class, and I hope to take a yoga class or a flower arranging class, or both. Maybe I'll take them both. So that'll be nice. So I'm looking forward to that. I've already signed up for my welding class, so I'm good to go. I probably need to go pick up a textbook in the coming weeks. So that'll be cool. Oh, and I also need to buy a parking permit. So, it's that whole college thing, right? I've got to make sure that I've got all my ducks in a row so that I can attend college this coming semester. Anyway, I hope you're doing well. I'm curious if you've chosen your classes for the following semester. That would be cool. I'd be interested in what classes are on your mind, which ones you're choosing, and maybe which ones you found the most enjoyable this last semester. So, by the way, I was at the library yesterday. Of course, I'm at the library very frequently. I plan to go to the library today, of course, and I was at the library yesterday. I picked up another audiobook, Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter series, the third installation in the series. So I'm pretty excited about. I already started listening to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban last night. I don't know, maybe I listened to about 20 minutes of the program. I finished the second book a couple days ago, and really loved it. Loved the work, and it was the Chamber of Secrets. Finished that up, so I'm loving this exploration of the Harry Potter wizarding world. Anyway, so I figured we'd move on to the next segment. Now, recently I've been I picked up a book the other day, this Panatti's Extraordinary Origins of Everyday Things. This is a book that I had when I was a younger boy, a book that I enjoyed reading. It gave me a lot of great factoids, and I learned a lot of great things out of it. And I figured I'd resurrect it from the dead, bring it and share a little bit of it with you, so that maybe you can receive some of the benefit of this book too. I think it's interesting because, it's got all kinds of interesting content and trivial facts in it. So we've been going over a few different items. We've been going over the origin of shampoo, the origin of soap. We've gone over the origins of Thanksgiving and other things. And now I figured it might be fun to go and learn about the origin of cosmetics. I know I know you're 14 years old, and so you're probably just thinking about what cosmetics are and whether it makes sense or not. And it's completely up to you about them. But I figured you might be somewhat interested in their origin, and I'd be interested in learning more myself. And the subtitle of this passage is called Cosmetics 8,000 Years Ago, the Middle East. So, wow. First of all, it is amazing to me to think that cosmetics started 8,000 years ago. 8,000 years ago is like the beginning of recorded history. And my guess is that cosmetics probably existed prior to that in some form or fashion. And I'm really curious about how it originated, because they seem to be everywhere when it comes to advertisements and marketing. And I don't know, it just seems to be everywhere. So let's find out what it's all about. So I'm just going to read the passage. It says, "A thing of beauty may be a joy forever, but keeping it that way can be a costly matter. American men and women, in the name of vanity, spend more than $5 billion a year in beauty parlors and barbershops and cosmetic and toiletry counters. Perhaps no one should be surprised or alarmed at this display of grooming, since it has been going on for at least 8,000 years. Painting, perfuming, and powdering the face and body and dyeing the hair began as part of religious and war rites and are at least as old as written history. Archaeologists unearthed palettes for grinding and mixing face powder and eye paint dating to 6,000 BC. In ancient Egypt, by 4000 BC, beauty shops and perfume factories were flourishing, and the art of makeup was already highly skilled and widely practiced. We know that the favorite color for eye shade then was green, the preferred lipstick blue-black, the acceptable rouge red, and that fashionable Egyptian women stained the flesh of their fingers and feet a reddish orange with henna. And in those bare-breasted times, a woman accented veins on her bosom in blue and tipped her nipples gold. Whoa! Egyptian men were no less vain, in death as well as life. They stocked their tombs with a copious supply of cosmetics for the afterlife. In the 1920s, when the tomb of King Tut, who ruled about 1350 BC, was opened, several small jars of skin cream, lip color, and cheek rouge were discovered, still usable and possessing elusive fragrances. In fact, during the centuries prior to the Christian era, every recorded culture lavishly adorned itself in powders, perfumes, and paints. All that except for the Greeks. Fascinating. Unlike the Romans, who assimilated and practiced Egyptian makeup technology, the Greeks favored a natural appearance. From the time of the 12th century Dorian invasions until about 700 BC, the struggling Greeks had little time for languorous pleasures of self-adornment. And when their society became established and prosperous during the golden age of the 5th century BC, it was dominated by an ideal of masculinity and natural ruggedness. Scholastics and athletics prevailed. Women were chattels. The male, unadorned and unclothed, was the perfect creature. Oh my gosh. During this time, the craft of cosmetics gleaned from the Egyptians was preserved in Greece through the courtesans. These mistresses of the wealthy sported painted faces, coiffed hair, and perfumed bodies. They perfumed their breath by carrying aromatic liquid or oil in their mouths and rolling it about the tongue. The breath freshener, apparently history's first, was not swallowed but discreetly spit out at the appropriate time. Among Greek courtesans, we also find the first reference in history to blonde hair in women as more desirable than black. Wow! Back in Greek times, 5th century BC, the lighter color connoted innocence, superior social status, and sexual desirability. And courtesans achieved the shade with an application of an apple-scented pomade of yellow, flower, petals, pollen, and potassium salt. In sharp contrast to the Greeks, Roman men and women were often unrestrained in their use of cosmetics. Roman soldiers returned from Eastern duty laden with and often wearing Indian perfumes, cosmetics, and a blonde hair preparation of yellow flower pollen and green or fine gold dust. And there is considerable evidence that fashionable Roman women had on their vanity virtually every beauty aid available today. The first century epigrammatist Martial criticized a lady friend, Gala, for wholly making over her appearance. While you remain at home, Gala, your hair is at the hairdresser's. You take out your teeth at night and sleep tucked away in 100 cosmetics boxes. Even your face does not sleep with you. Then you wink at men under an eyebrow you took out of a drawer that same morning. Given the Roman predilection for beauty aids, etymologists for a long time believed that our word cosmetic came from the name of the most famous makeup merchant in the Roman Empire during the reign of Julius Caesar, Cosmas. More recently, they concluded that it stems from the Greek kosmektos, meaning skilled in decorating. Whoa, okay. Wow, so there must be, for cosmetics to be so dominant in culture, over the last 8,000 years, there really must be something special about cosmetics and what it does. There must be something about its meaning and what it signals to other people and to the wearer. It must be something that's powerful. It must have some utility, right? If people have been using it for thousands of years and spend so much money on these over-the-counter cosmetics. I especially like this description in the book. What was it? The Greeks had little time for languorous pleasures of self-adornment. And you know what? I think that sentence is fairly apt. I love the poetry, the poetic nature of that sentence. And I'm struck by how well it captures what cosmetics are to a lot of people. It's languorous. Hey Google, what's the definition of languorous?
Here's the definition of glorious: having worthy of or bringing fame or admiration.
Hey Google, what's the definition of languorous on bedroom speaker?
On the website vocabulary.com, they say, to be languorous is to be dreamy, lackadaisical, and languid. When someone is languorous, she's lying around, daydreaming, possibly fanning herself lazily. It's a little self-indulgent.
Okay. Well, what I learned from that is I'm missaying the word languorous. Languorous. Sorry. It's not a word that I use very often. Languorous. But I love that definition. Let's hear that definition again. Hey, Google, can you repeat that?
I said, on the website vocabulary.com, they say, to be languorous is to be dreamy, lackadaisical, and languid. When someone is languorous, she's lying around, daydreaming, possibly fanning herself lazily. It's a little self-indulgent.
What a wonderful definition. Let me tell you, I am falling in love with words today. Languorous. I think I'm going to use that word today. For me, languorous is the word of the day. I'm going to be languorous as I waltz through the day today. And so pretty amazing stuff. Loving this stuff. So, yeah. It's kind of amazing how much cosmetics dominates our life. I was just at Target last night. And I was walking through the cosmetics aisle because I was on my way to get something. And the cosmetics aisle just goes on and on and on and on at Target. It's like 5, 6, 7, 8 aisles filled with cosmetics. Cosmetics of all types. such an array that I I can't really pinpoint. It's basically an infinity, an infinity of these cosmetics are in the aisles. There's a lot of them, and in fact, I just happened to go through the hairdryer aisle, and what I noticed was that there were literally like 15 or 20 different kinds of hair dryers. Serious. And that's just hair dryers. Then there were other styling tools. Easily another 10 what I'd call curling wands, curling heating irons for hair. At least another 10. And these are different brands. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's such a big part. It's really a part of our psychology. If you think about it, stores are laid out in ways that I think honor or are mirror the patterns of the human brain. There was a lot of food. I would guess that in the Target, there's probably about, I don't know, maybe 30% of the shelves were food, which is a significant chunk. It may have even been 40, maybe 30. And then a lot was geared toward entertainment and a lot towards toys and decorations, kitchen stuff, a lot. Basically, I'd say 50% of the store was clothes. Well, maybe not. Maybe 40% of the store was clothes. And I have a feeling that this mix might be how our own brains are arranged in terms of importance. I mean, to some extent, it must be that way, right? For a successful store to operate, it needs to reflect the mirror of its customers. And today, with inventory management computers and software, identifying display shelves and, how many inches of surface area a certain product has, and managing those inches, down to the millimeter, I'm sure. My guess is that the store shelves are a reflection of human brains, particularly successful stores. So it does give me an idea of the kind of compartmentalism, how the human brain is compartmented. And let me tell you, grooming products are a big part of the compartmented space. So, pretty amazing stuff. So, part of the reason that I went to Target last night was because I wanted to go get a present for Toys for Tots. And the reason I wanted to do that was because on Saturday morning at 9, I'm going to be doing Santa's Run, which is a local run here at River Park. And I'm going to literally be running a race with Santa Claus, or at least someone dressed up as Santa. And so I'll have the pleasure of racing whoever's in the suit, and I have a feeling that I'm completely going to lose. But I don't think I'll do that bad. These people in Santa suits are pretty fast. So I'm looking forward to running a race. I think it's a 5K, so that's about 3.1, 3.2 miles. Anyway, I figured maybe it's about time to get to the comments today, or the Q&A session today. Let's see what questions this book has for me today. Now, the Q&A segment of this presentation has to do with, you finding out a little bit about me and what's been on my mind lately. These are questions that are posed in an ebook that I have on my Kindle, and I wanted to share with you the questions and my answers so that you can get to know me a little bit better. You can understand where I'm coming from. Maybe you can get the benefit of some of my experience and sort of, I don't know. We'll see where it takes us, right? Absolutely. And plus, I love answering questions. come to think about it, I've got a final exam coming up, and that final exam is all about answering questions, right? I love Trivial Pursuit too. I'm a big fan of Trivial Pursuit, and I especially like other Trivial Pursuit type game shows like Jeopardy and other things like that. All right. So, question number 430, can you type fast? And I think I might have answered this question yesterday. The answer is no, I don't type any faster than anyone else necessarily, than the average, certainly. I think 40 words per minute is a pretty good goal. I can probably type 40 words per minute in bursts of creative energy. And though my guess is I can't do it for very long. Like I might be able to keep it up for a minute or two. But for the most part, I am languorous. Languorous. I'm languorous when I type. And so that means my typing speed is pretty, I would guess, it's competent, but it's not overcompetent. I've memorized many of the keys on the keyboard, but certainly not all of them. I'm not a genius when it comes to typing. I took a typing class at Allen Hancock College many years ago, and I'm so glad I did. And in fact, I do recommend that you take a typing class too, Am. All right, so next question. Question number 431, can you run fast? I think I can run fast. Last time I ran 8 minutes. 8-minute miles? No. I ran 8 miles per hour, which is 7 minutes, 30-second miles. 7-minute, 30-second miles. So I hope to eventually get down to maybe 7-minute miles. I think that is definitely do it. I could probably even do like 6.5-minute miles if I tried. And I might very well do that. But it's going to take me some time to get down there. Here's one of the things about me and my running. I am not highly motivated. I just want to make progress on the treadmill when I'm running. And so I do have these goals, and a lot of these goals are long-term goals. And, I'll be striving for them, right? That is to run 8.5 miles an hour. And, these goals will take me some long amount of time to complete. But I'll get there. One of the main factors of my sort of low progress or slow progress when it comes to running speed is because I have an interest in maintaining my health. I don't want to get injured because that means I will have to stop running, and I don't want to stop running. So, I take things slowly and I do my warm-ups, and I try to make sure that I don't get injured so I can continue running. And so that is part of the reason for my slow movement. Although I do think I run fairly fast, certainly more fast than a lot of people. A lot of people don't get above 6 miles an hour when they run. And I'm already at 8 miles an hour. I'm 2 miles an hour faster than that. Okay, next question. Question number 432, are you into video games? And the answer to that question is no, not anymore. I used to be into video games. I basically grew up playing video games. I grew up hanging out at the arcades, playing Donkey Kong and Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. I would hang out at the putt-putt golfing games, and I'd play putt-putt, and I'd get like $40 worth of quarters, and I'd literally play video games for like 2 hours. And that was fun for me. That's just what I did. That's what everyone I knew did. And I loved it. And I mean, I've got amazing memories of basically being Mario. I'm playing Donkey Kong. I'm playing Star Wars. I mean, these are my favorite video games. Playing Tempest, Centipede. Loving that stuff. Just totally loving it. And so yeah, that was in the era of the video game game room, which doesn't exist anymore. Video game rooms are. I've been to one. Like I went to one at the mall in Santa Maria, and so sorry. The state of video games in today's world is so sad. I've also been to Boomers, which is like a putt-putt golfing games place in Santa Maria, and they have a pretty extensive video games section. And let me tell you, I just cannot get into it. They've got video games which I'm not that familiar with. They're updated and they're new, and they've got an interesting card that you could put money onto, and then play the video games. It is somewhat reminiscent of like Las Vegas style, cards that you charge up with money and then put in your slot machine. Video games, though, are a lot more fun than slot machines, that's for sure. So, yeah, and then that's not all. I used to play Nintendo and Super Nintendo video games. I never did get a Nintendo 64, but I had other types of video game consoles. I had a ColecoVision when I was younger. I mean, I totally fell in love with the game Mousetrap on the ColecoVision. Good stuff. And then prior to that, my dad picked up at a garage sale a video game console. I don't even remember what it was called, but it only had like 3 games on it. And those 3 games were like tennis and ping pong and hockey, but they were nothing more than a single cursor, which was the ball, and then the other cursors, which were the walls, and then there was like a movable cursor that you could move either up and down or left and right. And up and down was one knob, and left and right was yet another knob. The control system was pretty low tech, but I mean, it did it for me. I was totally, I just loved video games at that point. They were so novel. They were like nothing I had ever seen before, and the technology was changing so rapidly. The stories were interesting. I don't know, the video games, like I remember video games like Mega Man, and some of the first Mega Mans that were released still have my heart. Everything from the graphics to the music. I mean, I was totally enamored with them. And I would also beat video games. For example, I think I beat Metroid, which was a wonderful video game. I also beat Zelda, The Legend of Zelda. And of course, I beat Super Mario Brothers as well. I finished those games. I played them from beginning to end. And, in order to do that, one has to devote a lot of time to those video games. And as a kid, that's what I did in my spare time. And I loved it. And you know what? The memories that I have of those times playing video games are really powerful. They're really strong. And still, I am enamored with, I think they've got a music genre that relates to video games called chiptune. I think that's what it's called. I love listening to chiptune music because of my exposure to 8-bit video games. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And so I've basically been indoctrinated with the video game memes. Anyway, love that stuff. So now the question asks, am I into video games? And the answer is no. So what must have happened was there must have been a transition, right? From between, say, when I was 8 years old and to today. Because it probably looks like a Gaussian curve. And I would guess the heyday for me with video games probably was when I was maybe about 12, 13 years old, 14 years old. Yeah, 12, 13, 14 years old. That was the heyday for me in video games. And ever since then, my interest in video games has waned. Video games for me, there was a time I was playing other people's Xboxes. I was really into Game Boy. I got a Game Boy when they first came out, loved it. But the screen was so dark, it really needed a backlight. And then the Game Boy Advance came out, and no backlight. Man, Nintendo works so slow. And as a company, they still are rather slow when it comes to rolling out good tech. I mean, they must have a different philosophy. But I actually took my Game Boy Advance console, which had no backlight, and I shipped that console, that portable console, to Canada, where some kid installed a backlight onto my my Game Boy Advance and then sent it back to me. Wow, that was amazing. Then I basically had backlit miniature video games. And then I bought a Game Boy, what was it, a GX, a Game Boy DX, and I also bought a Game Boy SP, and that's actually what I have right now. I've got a Game Boy SP, and in fact, I probably want to dig that out. Here's the problem, though. A lot of Game Boy cartridges, they're hard to find these days. Well, maybe not. Maybe I just have to go to the right sources, right? I got to go to eBay, and I think what I'm going to do, I've actually got some cartridges. I've got a handful of Game Boy cartridges. What I might want to do is I'm definitely not going to throw them away. I'm going to give them back to the video game stores because they are basically historical artifacts now. Archaeological artifacts. I really wish there was an easier way to play those games. I've bought them so many times. I've bought them on the Nintendo Wii console. I bought a lot of classic games, and then where's my Nintendo Wii? I don't have it. Maybe you've got it, Em. If you do, let's play a little bit Nintendo Wii. I'd like to play a little bit of some of that classic game stuff. Anyway. I never really did catch on to the Xbox. I also never did catch on to the PlayStation. So, it is what it is, huh? All right. Let's move on. Question number 433. Would you prefer a broken arm or a broken leg? Oh, boy. That's a really good question. Would I prefer a broken arm or a broken leg? Golly. Two bad choices. Two poor choices. Broken arm or a broken leg? I think I'd have to say a broken leg. Oh, no. They're both bad choices. I don't know. They're both rough, man. Broken leg or broken arm? I think I prefer broken leg. Here's why. The reason is because with limited mobility with your leg, you can still get around relatively well on crutches or in a wheelchair or whatever. With a broken arm, you're limited. You have trouble typing, right? You have trouble writing. You can't drive anywhere. Or at least it's harder to drive, that's for sure. I think I'd rather have a broken leg. Yeah. Because what happens with my hands are such amazing tools that I don't want to lose the ability to use these hands. These hands are amazing. And they help me get what I want, right? They help me get my food and my drink, and they help me get dressed, and these arms are amazing. They help me at work, and they help me with play. And so hands and arms are needed. Legs, on the other hand, if I had to do without a leg for a little while, I would probably be able to do it. It would just mean more sitting down. And I'm already sitting down a big part of the day anyway. And, if I have crutches, I can move from, say, my home to a car, to a classroom, or to my workplace relatively easily with crutches or a wheelchair. So I would definitely have a broken leg as opposed to a broken arm. So there we go. There's my answer. Next question. Do you ever watch the news? And the answer is, yeah, on occasion I do, but it's on rare occasion because I don't have a television set, nor do I have cable. So I don't watch the news. In fact, I actually think that the news is better when it's read. And here's why. When you're when there's a talking head talking to you, that is a newscaster or on the news, a broadcast, they're not able to convey a lot of detailed information in, say, the 30-second blurb that they use to summarize the news story. Whereas if I'm reading a news story from a newspaper, I'm probably taking a good 3 to 5 minute read of the story. And if you compare that to, say, a video broadcaster blurb of a story, that story may only be treated for 30 seconds, if that. So if you read the news instead of watch it, I think you're getting a lot more information, a lot more detailed information, a lot more subtle points when you read, and I think it's more informative in general. So I try not to watch television. I try not to watch the news, because here's the problem with watching the news. There appears a lot of communication is nonverbal. 80% of communication is nonverbal. And when these video broadcasters convey information, I think to some extent they're inhibiting their nonverbals, and they're also reading lines, right? I don't think it just doesn't come across. It comes across as sincere, of course, but there's really no connection between the broadcaster and the story. So anyway, my point is that I think reading news is better than watching it. I think you can get more information, more insight, more detail, and more understanding. Okay, but on occasion I do watch the news, but it's fairly random. Maybe it's a YouTube clip, right? Or maybe it's some other kind of oddity. Maybe I'm, say, at a website reading a web page, and on the right-hand side of that page, there might be a video going, and I might unclick the mute and turn on sound. So it's incidental. My viewing of video broadcast news is incidental. Question number 435. Have you been in love? And yeah, I've totally been in love. I fall in love all the time. And I've been in love deep enough to get married twice. And so yeah, I've been in love. And it's a great feeling. I recommend it. Question number 436. Do you believe that love at first sight is possible? And yeah, I do. It's occurred to me on a few times. And it's always, I still have memories of it. It's quite an amazing experience. And it probably has very little to do with the other person's personality. It might have more to do with me. I don't know. I have a difficult time explaining it. Question number 437. How many computers do you own? And that's a good question. Certainly my smartphone is a computer, and then I have a laptop and my backup laptop. So technically, I've got 3 computers. But realistically, I have a lot of computers. I've got my camera. That is my Canon M50 mirrorless camera. I've got my sewing machine, which is basically just a computer used to sew clothing. My printer is a computer. I've got all kinds of computers. My microwave oven is a computer. So I'm probably and my car is definitely a computer. Absolutely, my car's a computer. I'm sure my car boots up. These days, I'm sure cars are basically computers on their own. Next question. 438. How many TVs do I own? And that is an easy one. The answer is a big fat 0. I do not own a television set. So thankful I don't. Let me tell you about me and TV. First of all, I think TV can be great. It can be wonderful. It can be life-changing. You can learn so much. It's a wonderful learning tool. It's a great tool for communication and creativity and learning. TVs are amazing. They are totally amazing. And I don't have one. Because, one of the challenges of television is, first of all, time and programming. And here's the thing. TV can become a bad habit real quick. And you can be stuck watching a lot of programs that you don't want to see. It's just the way of the world. And, I know people try their hardest to enjoy quality TV, right? There's the Discovery Channel, the Learning Channel, documentaries, all kinds of wonderful information that gets transmitted over the air and through cable. But there's also a lot of not so good information that gets transmitted over the cable. Information that's kind of a waste of time and energy. There's also another factor too, and that is cost. I've never really paid a lot of money for cable. Like I've paid like $30, $40 for cable, but I don't think I've ever paid more than that. And that's because I've been without cable for such a long time. These days, I hear stories of people who purchase like cable packages, like a Comcast or whatever, for like $100 or $150, right? They've got these sports packages and other packages. They buy the movie channel or the HBO, right? And let me tell you, that is a lot of money to sort of devote to the cost of television. Wouldn't it be better to use that money to have positive experiences, to have amazing experiences every day? Like maybe going for walks out into the mountains or near the beach, or little vacations to neighboring cities, or personal growth programs, or who knows? There's so many things that you could devote that money to otherwise that I think would be just as or more entertaining. And so for me, it's about wise use of money. It's about wise use of time. And, there's also that problem too, like I mentioned about with news. It's easy to get sucked into this, what I'd call artificial urgency of modern 24-hour news cycle, and sort of get wrapped up. It's really easy to get wrapped up and get false impressions through the television set. In fact, I have a feeling that a big part of political unrest is created by television, video broadcast news. And, it might be a significant factor in why our age is so troubled right now. And I think it might be. I think it's the influence of television. And so anyway, I try to expose myself as little as possible to TV. Now, the internet, of course, has its own vices. And it might even, those vices might even be more pronounced than television vices. So I've still got a TV with an internet connection. So, I've still got a laptop with an internet connection. So, I certainly have not separated myself permanently from the potential problems of this information technology. It's something we all have to manage. Living in the age of communication, living in the age of information, it's just something we all have to manage and deal with. What kind of content is being poured into our minds. And I just prefer to get my content through the internet or through reading. At least that's my theory. Okay, next question. Question number 439. What are your general strengths? Okay. So I'm going to give you a rundown of my general strengths as a person, right? I've got character strengths, personality strengths, signature strengths, and I wanted to lay them out for you. So one of my key strengths is, I believe, judgment. That is critical thinking skills. That is, I have an ability to, and other people have this ability to, I just happen to think that I have perhaps somewhat, not just average, but a tick above average focus on analysis and judgment. And that, what that means to me is sort of like this an attempt to sort of bring an unbiased view to problems and issues and analyze them, their ins and outs. Now, I don't go to one extreme, which is like the logical extreme, where I'm thinking in these theoreticals, and I'm trying to break out all of the permutations of a problem. I have some patience with being strategic like that, but it's actually fairly limited. But there are other ways that I love using analysis through metaphor or through detail to sort of enhance my judgment and thought process. So there's this abstract thinking aspect of thinking that I think that I do pretty well at and is one of my key strengths. So analysis and judgment. Next signature strength, I think, would be a love of learning. I'm always open to learning new things, always interested in going to school and learning more and reading books. And I mean, if you just think about it, look at this book that I'm reading too, this Panatti's Extraordinary Origins of Everyday Things, is an example, right? It just arises in my life and in my mind. Okay, so that's two, a love of learning. There's another aspect, I think, it's optimism. I think that is a personality strength. And I think optimism and gratitude can be conjoined. They can be twinned. They can be joined. I think optimism and gratitude are two aspects of my personality, which is undeniably true. Let's see, what other strengths do I have? Those are my, I guess, top three. There's another one. I also am quite good at self-discipline, self-regulation, and patience. Self-discipline, self-regulation, self-control. That is a very strong aspect of my personality, dominant aspect of my personality, and that's good. Now, yeah, so self-discipline, self-regulation, big part of my personality, definitely a personality strength. Communication skills. I think I have high levels of communication skills. Does that even make sense? High levels of emotional intelligence, high levels of social intelligence. And so that's great. That is a set of skills that has held me in good stead in a lot of my past in history and even in my present. So I've really been benefited from having those social skills. And I also have an ability to be gregarious when I want to and an extrovert if I want to. So that's great. Now, I say if I want to for a reason, it's because I also have aspects of my personality which are somewhat introverted. And though sometimes those are hidden from view. So anyway, I think that's a pretty good, right there is a pretty good layout of some of my personality strengths. So in case you ever wanted to know, there it is, right there for everyone to see. Part of that self-discipline is this ability to be organized. And now I'm not going to say that I'm the most organized person, because I'm not. I'm not going to say that I'm the most tidy and neat person either, because I'm not. But I am fairly tidy. I do have a penchant for minimalism, and that is also quite helpful in keeping things straight and in order in my life. Next question. What are your weaknesses? Question number 440. All right. Well, I don't spend as much time thinking about my weaknesses, but here goes. I'll give it a try. Weaknesses. I think one of my weaknesses is sometimes it's a lack of courage, some self-doubt. I regret that that is the case, and I'm not sure how to remedy it. I think for me, it might just be sort of a yin yang kind of relationship with my pursuit of self development, self growth. I think it might be some kind of yin yang thing where I've got some self doubt, and these aspects of my personality balance themselves out. It's kind of interesting. There's also another yin yang type relationship related to my weakness, and it has to do with patterns in my behavior. I talked about self-discipline, which is really important to me, and that is actually a polite way of saying that I tend to get into ruts. I tend to get into ruts of behavior and move forward and bulldoze if I have an intention, which is great in a lot of ways, but can also be a hindrance in other ways. I tend to get trapped in behavior that doesn't serve me and stay stuck in that behavior for a long time. So, boy, I'm doing really good. I'm really pleased. I have so much gratitude that I'm able to pull together these weaknesses. Those were two really strong weaknesses, dramatic weaknesses in my personality. So, getting into ruts, and what was the other one? What was the first one? No, I forget. Oh, self-doubt. Getting into ruts into self-doubt. Let's see. Let me see if I can come up with a third personality weakness. What is a third personality weakness for me? Weakness. Again, it's a yin-yang kind of thing. Here's the other personality weakness. I have an ability to be gregarious and to have rather intense positive emotions. And I think the same is true on the opposite pole. I can have some rather intense negative emotions too. And it's kind of funny. It is yin yang. It sure is. I mean, optimism is a powerful aspect of my personality, but I can fall into the opposite pole as well. And where I'm maybe what I'd call overcritical, highly self-critical, and so, that's what I'd call the third prong of Miguel's unfortunate trident, right? Intense emotion. So, intense emotion, self-doubt, and what was the third one? Forgetfulness? Was it that? Anyway, it's on video. All right, next question. That was a really good question. That one really forced me to think. I really did have to think about that one. And I think I came up with some pretty good answers. So I get to pat myself on the back. Good work, Miguel. All right, next question. Question number 441. Have you done something you regret? Okay. Now you're talking to a person who just admitted that one of his weaknesses was self-doubt. So I think the answer to this question is completely obvious. So the answer is yes. Next question. 442. Do you consider yourself humble? And there are people who are more humble than I am. Yeah. Part of my extroversion, part of my optimism, is, a tendency to be a little extravagant at times. And so, no, I don't necessarily consider, I consider myself of average humbleness, maybe slightly below average humbleness. It's not something that is apparent. In fact, when you first visit with me, you might think the opposite is true, that I am quite humble. And, it depends on the context, certainly. With social intelligence as a strength of mine, I tend not to brandish my my self-importance. So anyway, Emily, I hope you enjoyed this little presentation for the last hour or so. I just want to say thank you for participating with me in this amazing technology where we can connect over distance and time. I also want to thank YouTube and Google for their generous bestowal of technology and hard drive space that essentially makes it possible for me to create a legacy that I'm will be interested in, that I'll be proud of, and that my children and their children will be able to benefit from. So thank you, Google. Thank you, Google. Thank you, YouTube. Deep thanks to the technology that makes this possible. I'm so thankful I live in the communication age and where this is even possible, this kind of time travel is possible. And man, I think I'm going to have a good day at work today. Anyway, Emily, I hope you have a fantastic day, a fantastic weekend. I myself am going to be running a 5K race on Saturday. I picked up a present for the Santa's Run to be participated in that yesterday at Target, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to studying for my final exam that's coming up on Monday night. So I've got to keep this mind active, Got to keep testing it, got to keep prompting the memory, got to keep it going, man. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll check you later. Peace out.